Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Arirang News Break on this Thursday, July 21st. I'm Han-daeun in Seoul. We'll begin at the nation's top office. President Park Geun-hye will chair a National Security Council meeting shortly to check upon security conditions following North Korea's missile tests on Tuesday. The meeting is her first official schedule after returning home from her trip to Mongolia. President Park is likely to gauge the possibility of another provocation with related officials and call for high defense readiness for any scenario. Pyongyang launched 3 ballistic missiles on Tuesday in an apparent protest against Seoul and Washington's decision to deploy a U.S. high-altitude air missile defense system in the south. The NSC meeting comes a week after the previous one, where the president stressed that it's time to end, quote, unnecessary debates over the THAAD deployment. European Union regulators are looking into whether any EU member states are violating laws concerning North Korean overseas workers and human rights issues. The European Commission said Wednesday that it's contacting countries like Poland to investigate such cases. This is seen as a follow-up to a recent assertion made by a European Parliament member who said North Koreans are living as modern-day slaves in certain European countries, including Poland, which allegedly let around $70 million from its job creation budget flow into companies that hire North Korean workers. The EU's strong initiative is seen as part of it complying to the strongest than ever sanctions on Pyongyang. A diplomatic source in Brussels says the EU in the past did not interfere in issues related to the North's forced labor and human rights abuses. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has announced a 3-month state of emergency following last week's coup attempt. He says he will work as president and commander-in-chief with armed forces to cleanse a virus from military in an attempt to maintain control. Park Jong-hong reports.
In a televised address to the nation, President Erdogan said the state of emergency was essential in order to swiftly restore stability to the country. He added that it was needed to remove all elements of the terrorist organization that were involved in the coup attempt.
The purpose of the declaration of the state of emergency is in fact to be able to take the most efficient steps in order to remove this threat as soon as possible, which is a threat to democracy, to the rule of law, and to the rights and freedoms of the citizens of our country.
He reassured citizens that the measure is aimed at protecting those values from attacks. The president lauded citizens who took to the streets last Friday to fight against the coup, calling them heroes, and those who were killed martyrs. He said the nation would never forget the bravery and sacrifice of those who lost their lives. According to the Turkish constitution, a state of emergency is allowed to last up to 6 months. An extensive purge has been in full swing in Turkey over the past several days. About 60,000 soldiers, police, judges, civil servants, and teachers have been rounded up, sacked, or placed under investigation since last week's failed coup. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
British Prime Minister Theresa May has met with German Chancellor Angela Merkel to discuss the UK's withdrawal from the EU. The two leaders agreed the negotiations shouldn't be held off for long, but they won't begin this year. Oh Soo-young reports.
British Prime Minister Theresa May says the UK won't start negotiations on leaving the European Union this year. May met German Chancellor Angela Merkel in Berlin on Wednesday, where the two leaders reached an understanding that Britain will take some time before activating Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, the legal mechanism for leaving the bloc. While Merkel agreed that the British government should define its interests and its views before negotiating an exit, she said the process shouldn't be delayed for too long.
No one wants a period of limbo, I believe, neither the British public nor the European member countries. But everyone has an interest in things being prepared carefully and for positions to be clear. I find it absolutely understandable that there is a certain amount of time needed.
Regardless of the UK's withdrawal from the regional bloc, the two leaders agreed to strengthen cooperation on trade, economic and security-related interests.
But I also want to be clear here today and across Europe in the weeks ahead that we are not walking away from our European friends. Britain will remain an outward-looking country and Germany will remain a vital partner and a special friend for us.
May will also hold talks with French President François Hollande on Thursday as part of her efforts to pave the way for a smoother Brexit process. Ahead of May's first foreign visit after taking office, Britain announced it would forfeit its 6-month presidency of the Council of the EU, coming up in the second half of 2016. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Korea's air traffic hit a record high in the first half of this year. According to the Transport Ministry, the number of flights crisscrossing the skies over Korea came to nearly 360,000 during the January to June period, up more than 8% from the same period a year ago. That translates into an average of almost 2,000 flights a day. The number of international flights using Korea's airports jumped almost 10% to 216,000. Domestic flights climbed nearly 5% to 119,000. In particular, over 11,500 China-bound flights passed through Korea's airspace in the first half, up almost 10% on year. That's all for now. Keep it tuned to Arirang for more domestic and global headlines throughout the day. Thank you for watching.